Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marisol Juarez Rivera. I'm a postdoc at the University of New Mexico, working with Tyler Mackey and collaborating with Ian Haas and Don Sumner on this project where we are tracking biomass export in ice-covered Antarctic lakes. So the McMurdo Dry Valleys are home to several large-scale ecosystems, such as seasonal streams, the soils, and the ice-covered lakes, which are the focus of this lightning talk. And what you're seeing here is an aerial view of Lake Fryxell, which you can find it within Taylor Valley. So these lakes are pretty stable environments. And that is mainly because the 3 to 6 meter thick perennial ice cover is limiting with mixing, and these are also density stratified. So in this plot, you can see that the conductivity increases with depth. The ice cover is also attenuating much of the light, letting through only about 0.5 to 3% of that incident light. And in this plot, you can see that the photosynthetic active radiation also decreases with depth. And one other important characteristic about these lakes is that they are supersaturated with atmospheric gases. In this plot, we plotted dissolved oxygen with depth, and it is supersaturated in those shallow waters. So the surface of these lakes looks very different from the inside of them. And what you're seeing here is a video that was collected by Abby Diaz during our most recent field season at Lake Fryxell. What you're seeing are microbial that would otherwise grow relatively flat on the lake floor. The reason why they're not flat on the lake floor is because they're growing in that gas supersaturated region, and gas bubbles are nucleating on the mats, raising them off of the lake floor, creating what we call liftoff mats. Sometimes liftoff mats will be buoyant enough that they rip off of the lake floor and float up to the ice-water interface, where they can either sink back down to the lake floor or they can freeze onto the ice cover. If they do freeze onto the ice cover, they will eventually be exported at the surface because the ice is ablating at the surface at about 30 centimeters per year. At this point, those liftoff mats will be picked up by the wind and exported to those surrounding environments, providing a source of biomass and nutrients. So the questions that are driving this research is to understand the main drivers of microbial liftoff and export, and track down how that export changes or responds to environmental change. This is another time lapse showing how mobile some of these mats could be. And so we actually do have documentation of liftoff mat through time. So in the early 1980s, Wharton et al. Documented liftoff mat present from 3 to 8 meters depth. Next, we have documentation from 2006. By then, the lake level had risen by 1.5 meters, shifting the liftoff zone laterally up basin and also decreasing to 2.2 meters. Our most recent field season in 2022-2023 showed that the lake level had risen by 0.8 meters. The ice cover was particularly thinner, and that zone of microbial liftoff increased to 5 meters. So using those observations, we took a bathymetric model from the McMurdo Dry Valleys LTER to estimate changes in the surface area through this time. And what we found is that from the 1980s to 2022-2023, the surface area with liftoff mat has actually doubled. For reference, Parker et al. Documented that 1.4 times 10 to the fourth kilograms of dry biomass were exported in the early 1980s. We also collected mass and are in the process of determining what this figure is for the present. So that increase in the liftoff zone really correlated with one of the thinnest ice covers we have seen on record, as well as an increase in dissolved oxygen. And in the coming months, we're going to try to figure out the link between those changes in the environment and changes in the mat liftoff. So to summarize, the McMurdo Dry Valley lakes are sources of biomass and nutrients to the surrounding soils. And we are seeing that the biomass export varies through time. So the effects of those other environments is likely to not be constant. And it appears that these lakes are going through a particularly interesting change because there's a lot of biomass being mobilized currently that is tied to that thinner ice cover and increased dissolved oxygen levels. In the future, what we hope to do is to develop a conceptual model to understand the relationship between biomass export, and environmental change so that we could predict how the export of microbial mat will also vary in the coming time at the McMurdo Dry Valley lakes. Thank you.